Welcome to The Explainer. You ever wonder why your company has that one weird rule that just makes no sense? Or why some bosses inspire total loyalty while others, well, they just inspire quitting? Today, we are digging deep into the ethics of the modern workplace. We're going to deconstruct what it really means when companies talk about human capital, which is basically the fancy term for all the skills and experience you bring to the table. So let's just start with a really basic question. What, or maybe who, is actually setting the rules you live by every day at work? You might be surprised to find out that the answer is way more complicated than you think. I mean, sure, your manager and that employee handbook are the obvious things, right? But the real forces shaping your job, they run much, much deeper. And honestly, they're often invisible, making decisions for you long before they ever get to your desk. The best way to think about it is like an invisible blueprint. It's this foundational plan that dictates how a company sees you, how they manage you, and how they value you. And here's the thing, it exists in every single organization, whether they realize it or not. All right, let's really get into this. What exactly goes into this blueprint? Well, it's not designed by any single person. Instead, it's shaped by these huge external pressures that every single company has to deal with. The architects of this blueprint are, well, they're all around us. Just think about it for a second. A bad economy can freeze salaries overnight. A new government policy can completely change how companies are allowed to hire. And something like AI can make entire jobs disappear while creating totally new ones. Even the age and diversity of the workforce changes the rules. These are the powerful forces shaping your job from the outside in. And that brings us to a really tricky and super important question. Look, every company wants to be efficient and competitive. They're always trying to get the most value out of their people. But where do you draw the line between just optimizing performance and flat-out exploitation? This quote right here from researcher Bruce Kaufman really nails it. He's basically saying, hey, when companies get obsessed with squeezing every last drop of productivity out of their employees, it's not just an ethical problem. It's a practical one too, because you end up creating a toxic environment that's actually just bad for business. So it all comes down to this one central tension. Do you see an employee as a partner you create value with, or do you see them as a resource you extract value from? How a company answers that one question changes absolutely everything about the relationship, and it raises some really big ethical red flags. So how does this whole ethical tightrope act actually play out in the real world? Well, it usually boils down to two completely different ways of managing people, and they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. And this table just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got the commitment approach. This is all about investing in people, empowering them, and trusting them to do great work. On the other side, you have the control approach, which is all about minimizing costs and risks with tons of rules and supervision. Now, the funny thing is, study after study shows that commitment-based companies are more profitable and have way less turnover. So why are so many workplaces still stuck in that control mindset? I mean, just think about your own career for a second. Have you ever had a job where you were told to be creative and innovate, but at the same time you were buried under a mountain of rigid rules? Yeah, that feeling, that's this exact tension playing out right in front of you. So, is there a better way forward? Can you actually build a workplace that's both productive and humane? The good news is, it looks like we're in the middle of a pretty massive shift, and it's being driven by both the economy and what employees themselves are demanding. And if you need any proof that this isn't just some corporate fantasy, just follow the money. The global market for diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, is projected to hit over $15 billion. That's a huge strategic investment in building workplaces where people actually feel valued. And all that money is fueling a whole new set of priorities. We're talking about real, tangible changes here, not just buzzwords. Things like flexible schedules and actual mental health resources, or auditing hiring algorithms to make sure they're not biased. It's about training managers to lead with empathy, not just spreadsheets. The whole goal is to finally put the human back into human resources. A huge part of this is the rise of something called the healthy organization. And no, we're not just talking about ergonomic chairs and maybe some free apples in the break room. This is a holistic approach. It's about creating a workplace that supports your whole self. Your mental health, your financial stability, and your sense of community and belonging. And you know what? This change isn't just coming from the top. The workforce itself is demanding it. A massive 81% of employees now say they are actively looking for companies that make mental well-being a real priority. That's a huge signal that the old way of doing things just isn't going to cut it anymore.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the big picture, these invisible blueprints that shape our jobs. But what does all of this mean for you? Well, as it turns out, understanding this stuff is one of the most powerful things you can do for your own career.
Because knowing about this shift, it gives you power. It helps you figure out which companies are actually walking the walk versus those who are just talking. It gives you the language you need to ask the right questions in a job interview, not just about the salary, but about their well-being policies, how they train their leaders, and what real opportunities for growth look like. And really, this is the main takeaway. We are in the middle of a messy, complicated, but I think ultimately hopeful evolution in the world of work. It's a slow burn, for sure, but it's a steady shift away from that old extractive view of people and toward one that gets that empowerment and well-being are what actually drives success in the long run.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought. This invisible blueprint, it's not set in stone. It's being rewritten all the time. And whether you're just starting out, you're a manager, or you're a CEO, the things you do every day contribute to that culture. So the real question is, what are you going to do to help rewrite the blueprint?